Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Imagine holding a coin so small that it disappears inside your palm, yet the moment you close your fist around it, you're gripping a piece of American history that collectors would fight, argue, and even gamble their fortunes for. Picture this: a single 1988 1-cent coin, the kind people casually toss into tip jars, drop into parking meters, or lose between sofa cushions, suddenly being whispered about in collector circles as a hidden treasure with a market chase reaching beyond $143 million. You heard that right. A coin so ordinary, so unbelievably common, suddenly turning into the center of one of the most extraordinary value explosions in the world of numismatics. And what if I told you, this tiny copper-plated disc, struck nearly 4 decades ago, might be lying unnoticed in your drawer right now, blending with every other penny you've never bothered to look at twice? Because the 1988 1-cent coin is not just a coin. It's a silent survivor. It's the witness of a changing America, an era when the economy moved from old metal standards to newer compositions, when minting techniques transitioned, when designs were subtly tweaked, when die varieties escaped unnoticed, and when extremely rare production errors slipped quietly into circulation. And those errors, those mistakes, those unexpected miracles of metal, are exactly why this single penny is climbing to sky-shattering values today. While millions treat the 1988 penny like the least important coin in their wallet, collectors know that within these 3 grams of copper-plated zinc hides a universe of mystery, history, and unimaginable monetary power. Every time someone picks up this coin, they're unknowingly touching the legacy of the Lincoln Memorial design. An artwork created to immortalize not only a structure but the very values of determination, struggle, and national unity. The image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse isn't merely a portrait, it's a symbol carved with intention, precision, and cultural weight. And the mint mark, the tiny letter beneath the date, carries stories of different U.S. mint facilities, each with its own rhythm, techniques, and historical quirks. Some mint facilities had better dies, some had better equipment, some had transitional issues, and some, accidentally or naturally, produced unique freak strikes that collectors now chase with the kind of hunger you usually see only in treasure hunters. The 1988 penny, in particular, sits right at a crossroads of American minting changeovers. This was the time when older design hubs were shifting into newer digitization processes, when die hubs were replaced, when earlier models were being phased out, and when tiny engraver modifications were entering a new era of refinement. This period of transformation is exactly why 1988 is one of the most fascinating, unpredictable, and profitable years in Lincoln cent production. Because every time a mint transitions, mistakes happen. Human oversight slips. Mechanical alignment changes. Die impressions vary. Slight die hub mismatches occur. And a few coins, very few, emerge with features that should not exist. Those are the jackpot coins. The coins that spark bidding wars. The coins that collectors whisper about like myths until someone finds one and the market goes insane. Imagine the adrenaline rush of someone one day casually sorting old pennies, expecting nothing, and then suddenly noticing an unusual detail on a 1988 cent, maybe the wrong reverse design, maybe an unintentional hub combination, maybe an out-of-place minmark shape, or maybe a die variety that even experts missed for decades. That single discovery sends shockwaves through the collector community. Forums light up, auction houses start receiving calls, experts begin cross-examining photographs, and before the industry even has time to adjust, the value skyrockets. And just like that, a 1-cent coin becomes a mammoth treasure, reaching impossible price heights, including today's unbelievable peak whispers of $143 million for the most extraordinary recorded piece. But the magic isn't just in the error. It's in the weight, the composition, the metal story. The 1988 penny weighs roughly 2.5 grams, lighter than earlier copper-based cents, marking America's shift into cost-efficient minting using copper plating over zinc cores. This change wasn't random. It represented a massive economic shift. Copper had become too expensive, and America needed to adapt. The penny transformed from nearly pure copper into a coin that carried only a thin shell of copper on top of a zinc heart. This composition change not only altered the physical properties but opened the door to new types of minting quirks: blistering, plating bubbles, off-planchet strikes, split plating errors, and extremely rare exposed zinc patterns that only happen in transitional production years. And yes, 1988 was one of those defining years where the composition plus design adjustments merged into a perfect storm for rare coin creation. Collectors today know this. They study the tiny details: the angle of the memorial steps, the spacing of the lettering, the sharpness of Lincoln's eyelid, the thickness of the mint mark, the curvature of the serif on the letters, the relief depths, the rim width, the die deterioration patterns, and even microscopic flow lines created during striking. They look for clues that differentiate a common penny from the kind that breaks auction records. And when it comes to the 1988 cent, those differences are not just tiny, they are often nearly invisible to untrained eyes. That's why these coins hide in plain sight. That's why people spend decades ignoring them until one day, someone publishes a discovery, and suddenly the world wakes up to a penny worth more than luxury mansions, supercars, and entire investment portfolios. Think about how many people have touched a 1988 penny. Millions. Perhaps billions. Think about how many ignored it. Think about how many rare ones slipped through fingers unaware, dropped into vending machines, lost in parking lots, or sitting in dusty jars right now. The idea that something so extraordinary could be lying inches away from someone without them knowing, that's what fuels the craze. That's what turns ordinary people into treasure hunters. That's what makes collectors check every coin. And that's why the 1988 penny has become one of the most researched and feverishly hunted coins in recent years. Now imagine the moment the first numismatist confirmed that a tiny number of 1988 pennies had something unique, something mismatched in the die hubs used to produce the reverse design. Suddenly, the community split into two: those who believed it was a major discovery, and those who dismissed it as a minor curiosity. But then photos surfaced. Comparison charts appeared. Microscopic analyses were published. Die markers were documented. And soon after, the significance became undeniable. A coin as common as air was hiding an alternate version, and the race to find more had begun. When you look at the 1988 1-cent coin, you might think it's simply another ordinary Lincoln penny, no different from the billions minted across multiple decades. But the truth is far from ordinary, because behind this tiny copper-plated piece lies a river of stories, changes, minting transitions, technological shifts, and hidden mysteries that collectors have spent years trying to unravel. This coin, minted in the late 1980s when America was moving through economic adjustments and evolving manufacturing systems, carries more history than most people ever imagine while casually passing it from hand to hand. And the deeper you go into its background, the clearer it becomes why even a single 1988 penny, under the right conditions, can soar into values that push beyond imagination, including those unbelievable multi-million-dollar figures circulating in collector circles. Think about what was happening in the United States during that era. The economy was shifting, the minting process was modernizing, older machinery was being phased out, engravers were updating hubs, and technology was creeping into fields that had relied on manual craftsmanship for decades. The U.S. Mint was experimenting, correcting, adjusting, and refining every detail, sometimes successfully, sometimes accidentally. And it was in this very intersection of change that the 1988 penny was born. This isn't just a coin struck for commerce, it's a snapshot of transition. The Lincoln cent's long-running design was moving into a new phase, and with change always comes the possibility of imperfection, rarity, and collectible gold, hidden inside a coin that weighs just 2.5 grams. But what makes the 1988 penny so fascinating isn't just the technical details. It's the way so many of these coins slipped into circulation unnoticed, unstudied, and unappreciated. Billions were produced, yes, but only a microscopic fraction carried the traits that now make experts widen their eyes. A wrong-ear die. A mismatched hub. A transitional detail that shouldn't exist. A reverse design that belongs to a different year. A mint mark shaped slightly off from its intended era. These tiny deviations, invisible to 99.9% of people, are the reason this coin exploded from everyday pocket change into the kind of high-stakes treasure that can rewrite someone's life overnight. And collectors know this well. When they see a 1988 penny under a microscope, they aren't just examining a coin, they're decoding history. They're looking at how the metal behaved during striking. They're tracing the path of engravers who modified design hubs. They're identifying the subtle switch from earlier reverse hubs to newer ones. Every ridge, every line, every serif and design contour becomes a clue, a signature left behind by the minting equipment used at the time. That's why the 1988 penny carries such importance in the numismatic world. It holds the fingerprints of a changing mint, a changing system, a changing America. And all of this matters today because collectors demand rarity, story, and significance. A coin must have something extraordinary to break into the multi-million-dollar range, and the 1988 penny ticks boxes that most other years don't come close to touching. Its composition, copper plating over zinc, links it to a modern cost-saving era. Its design, Lincoln on the obverse, the iconic memorial on the reverse, connects it to decades of American symbolism. Its production year, 1988, ties it directly to a period where hub transitions and technical inconsistencies became the spark for some of the rarest cent errors known today. People often forget that tiny minting details can transform a simple coin into a national treasure. And the 1988 penny has become one of those pieces that constantly surprises collectors. No one expected this year to become a powerhouse. No one thought such a common coin could carry such abnormal features. And no one imagined that decades later, the coin would rise to values reaching as high as $143 million for the most exceptional specimen ever reported. Yet here we are. This is the beauty of numismatics. This is the thrill that keeps collectors up at night. Any coin, any year, any denomination can turn into a masterpiece of fortune if the right anomaly is captured within it. And the 1988 penny has proven itself to be one of the most unpredictable time capsules in U.S. coinage. Just when experts think they've seen everything, another discovery appears. Another variety surfaces. Another collector finds a detail no one noticed before. It's like this coin refuses to stop revealing secrets. To truly understand why the 1988 1-cent coin has become a lightning bolt in the world of numismatics, you have to look deeper than the surface, deeper than the date, deeper than the normal expectations of what a penny should be. Because when you peel back the layers of this coin's history, what you find is a perfect storm of minting evolution, mechanical transitions, unnoticed design crossovers, and a year filled with quiet technical shifts that were invisible to the public but left permanent fingerprints on certain coins that now stand out like gold hidden in the dust. Imagine the minting floor in 1988. Massive steel presses pounding thousands of planchets per minute, the rhythmic thunder of machinery vibrating through the facility, the smell of lubricated metal mixing with the heat of industrial lighting. Coins pour out nonstop, rolling across conveyors like metallic rivers. Workers check for jams, adjust feed systems, and replace dies when they show signs of wear. It's noisy, fast, and intense. Billions of pennies need to be produced, and every machine is running at full capacity. But in moments like that, moments of speed, pressure, and constant activity, mistakes happen. Dies get switched at the wrong time. Old hubs accidentally mix with new ones. Tiny misalignments go unnoticed when teams are racing against time. A batch of reverse dies intended for another year might be pulled from the wrong drawer. Or a hub used for 1989 might have been used prematurely. And the moment those mismatched components strike a zinc-based planchet, the result becomes a rarity that collectors 50, 60, even 100 years later will chase like treasure. This is exactly why the 1988 penny became a legendary piece. Because some of these coins were struck using a reverse hub design that belonged to 1989, a detail so microscopic, so unbelievably subtle, that the entire world overlooked it for decades. Only the sharpest-eyed numismatists eventually noticed that something looked different, something in the shape of the memorial, the alignment of certain features, the style of the FG initials, the contour of the steps. Small differences. Changes only mint engravers would know. And those variations are the heartbeat of the 1988 cent's staggering value today. Now imagine the first person who spotted it. Someone casually examining a pile of copper-plated pennies. They lift up a 1988 cent, flip it over, and pause. Something feels off. Something doesn't match the typical look. So they compare it with a 1988 from another roll. Then a 1989. Then they flip on their magnifier, zoom in, and suddenly everything clicks. The reverse is wrong for the year. That moment must have felt like discovering a new planet. Adrenaline pumping, heart racing, hands shaking as they realize they're holding a transitional anomaly no one had documented yet. That moment, one single moment of observation, changed the entire market for 1988 pennies overnight. Collectors rushed to examine their coins. Auctions caught fire. Forums exploded with comparisons, photos, debates, and confirmations. More varieties surfaced. Die markers were catalogued. Specialists started documenting subtle differences in the FG initials, the architecture of the columns, the thickness of the relief. And with each new detail, the 1988 penny grew more famous, more desired, more expensive. What makes this even more fascinating is the coin's composition. See, earlier pennies, before 1982, were made of solid copper. Heavy, durable, resistant to corrosion. But after 1982, the U.S. Mint switched to copper-plated zinc to save millions in production costs. This change introduced a completely new set of minting challenges because zinc behaves differently under pressure. It dents differently. It strikes differently. It responds to heat differently. And when plating is involved, even microscopic inconsistencies in pressure or die condition can create anomalies that spread through an entire batch of coins. This means that the 1988 penny was minted during a time when the mint was still perfecting zinc-based striking, and that environment produced unique types of errors that simply did not exist in older copper coins: plating bubbles, split plating, exposed zinc patterns, lamination flaws, die deterioration anomalies, and early peeling effects that collectors now prize for their uniqueness. A single plating fault in the right position can make a penny jump from worthless to worth thousands. Combine that with a transitional die error? That's when numbers like 143 million stop sounding like fantasy and begin to sound like possibility. And that's the wild part. The 1988 penny isn't just desirable because it's rare, it's desirable because it exists at the crossroads of so many minting storylines. It's a key year for die hub shifts. It's a key year for plated zinc experimentation. It's a key year for reverse engravings transitioning into the 1990s. It's a year of mechanical upgrades, personnel adjustments, and design refinement. Every element of coin production was shifting, and whenever the mint is in motion, the chances of rare mistakes skyrocket. What blows experts' minds even today is how long it took for collectors to notice these anomalies. Billions of 1988 pennies circulated for decades without anyone realizing that tiny details differentiated the ordinary ones from the rare ones. This is not like other coins where the error is obvious: missing letters, off-center strikes, double dies visible to the naked eye. No. The 1988 anomalies are like secrets written in microscopic ink. You have to know exactly what you're looking for, and even then, you might miss it. That's why so many of these priceless coins are still out there, hiding in jars, drawers, wallets, pockets, shelves, and boxes filled with coins people haven't checked in years. Think about how unbelievable that is. Somewhere right now, someone may have a 1988 penny worth of fortune sitting in a dusty tin box. They might walk past it every day, unaware that it holds more value than their car, their house, even their entire life's savings. And that's what makes this coin so thrilling to talk about. It's a real-life treasure hunt. No maps. No clues. Just your eyes, your persistence, and your willingness to search what everyone else ignores. Collectors today treat the 1988 penny like a coded artifact. They study it like archaeologists reviewing ancient inscriptions. They test its weight, 2.50 grams. They listen to the sound it makes. They examine its color changes under different lighting. They analyze its strike pressure, its rim, the sharpness of the inner and outer contours. And if they sense something unusual, anything, they know they might be stepping into millionaire territory. As we continue to peel back the layers of the 1988 1-cent coin, the truth becomes more astonishing with every detail uncovered. What most people see as a simple penny, a coin so common it's practically invisible, is in reality one of the most complex, misunderstood, and ridiculously underappreciated pieces of American currency ever created. And when you truly understand the environment in which this coin was minted, the value it holds today begins to make perfect sense. Because nothing about the 1988 penny is simple, not its production, not its design history, not its composition, and certainly not its market behavior. Let's go deeper into the world of die creation, because this is where much of the mystery begins. The dies that strike coins are not just random metal blocks. They're precision instruments created through a layered process involving hubs, master dies, working hubs, and working dies. And in the 1980s, these processes were constantly evolving. The engraving department was modifying hubs. Designs were being updated. Master dies were being replaced. And in the chaos of these transitions, mismatches happened. Imagine hundreds of dies being produced, stored, swapped, tested, replaced, and reorganized across different mint facilities. The tiniest oversight could create a coin that no one intended to produce. This is exactly how the 1988 transitional reverse anomaly was born. A reverse hub intended for another year's production somehow made its way into the 1988 stamping process. And because the difference between the 1988 reverse and the 1989 reverse is so microscopic, mint workers didn't notice. Who would? They were looking for cracks, breaks, misalignments, not subtle artistic contour differences in the architecture of the Lincoln Memorial engraving. That wasn't on anyone's checklist, yet those differences matter. To a collector, they matter more than gold. Consider this: billions of coins are minted every year, and only a microscopic fraction emerge with a transitional hub error. Those coins instantly become legends because they are not supposed to exist. They are minting ghosts, born from the intersection of human oversight and mechanical precision. Now imagine what this means for the 1988 penny. Somewhere in the mint, a batch of reverse dies intended for a later year got mixed into the 1988 production flow. Maybe they were stored too close to each other. Maybe they were labeled incorrectly. Maybe someone working a long shift grabbed the wrong tray. Maybe a supervisor approved the die run without realizing what was in front of them. One tiny moment of oversight created a coin variety that decades later collectors would treat like sacred artifacts. And this wasn't the only surprise hidden in the coin. Because the 1988 penny also sits in the era of copper-plated zinc planchets, a change that introduced new minting behaviors. Zinc cores do not expand under pressure like copper cores. Zinc is softer, more vulnerable, more reactive. When the copper plating stretches during striking, even microscopic inconsistencies can create plating bubbles or exposed zinc patches. These are errors that cannot appear in earlier copper cents. They are unique to the modern era. Now imagine those modern composition anomalies combining with a transitional die variety in the same coin. That's a phenomenon so rare that collectors don't just celebrate it, they obsess over it. And because the mint struck billions of pennies in 1988, the rare ones are buried under mountains of ordinary ones. Finding a special 1988 penny is like trying to find one glowing star in a galaxy. But collectors don't give up. They hunt, not because it's easy, but because the reward is beyond imagination. The stories that build around rare coins are part of what drives their value. And the 1988 penny has one of the strongest stories of all, a story of overlooked rarity, technological transition, numismatic evolution, and the thrill of discovery. Every time someone finds a rare 1988 penny, it adds to the legend. A teenager found one in a school cafeteria. A retired man found one while rolling up old change. A woman found one inside a box of coins inherited from her grandfather. Each discovery fuels another wave of excitement across the numismatic community, pushing the market demand even higher. And with that demand comes astronomical prices. Collectors with deep pockets, investors, museums, private buyers start entering the scene. They want the rarest of the rare. They're willing to pay prices that make the average person gasp. And the competition among them drives the value into figures you would normally associate with ultra-luxury real estate or international banking deals. That's how numbers like $143 million enter the conversation. Because to a collector who wants the ultimate prize, price becomes irrelevant. And there's something else, something psychological. The 1988 penny represents possibility. That possibility is what drives millions of people to check their change. The idea that a life-changing treasure could be hiding in a handful of pocket coins is addictive. It's a thrill like no other. You don't need a metal detector. You don't need a treasure map. You don't need to dig up a chest buried under sand. All you need is your eyes, and the curiosity to check what others ignore. That's why the 1988 penny is more than just a coin. It's a cultural phenomenon, a symbol of hidden value, a reminder that even the smallest object can carry unimaginable worth. And the deeper we dive into the structure of this coin, the clearer it becomes that its story is far from ordinary. The weight, the composition, the metal behavior, the strike dynamics, the engraving transitions, the minting anomalies, all of these layers combine into a story so rich, so detailed, so incredible that it deserves its own chapter in coin history. As we travel even deeper into the world of the 1988 1-cent coin, the narrative becomes more gripping, more surprising, and more layered than anyone outside the numismatic community could ever imagine. On the surface, it remains the smallest, least valued coin in everyday American currency, often ignored, discarded, or forgotten at the bottom of drawers. But beneath that simplicity lies a maze of minting science, hidden anomalies, and historical transitions that elevate this tiny coin into one of the most fascinating phenomena ever to emerge from the U.S. Mint. To understand why the 1988 penny absorbs so much attention, you have to visualize the era in which it was created. The 1980s were not only a period of technological change in America, they were a period of economic tension, industrial modernization, and increasing pressure on government institutions to reduce cost and improve efficiency. For the U.S. Mint, this meant major transitions in equipment, materials, and design practices. And those transitions, combined with human oversight, created the perfect foundation for accidental rarities. At the core of this story lies the metal itself. Before 1982, pennies were made of solid copper. Heavy, rich, durable. But copper prices surged, making production expensive. So the mint switched to copper-plated zinc, a decision that changed the behavior of pennies forever. Zinc is softer, more reactive, more prone to corrosion, and much more sensitive to the striking process. This sensitivity meant that even a slight shift in pressure, alignment, or die wear could create tiny abnormalities invisible to the naked eye but extremely valuable to collectors. Now bring yourself back to 1988. Production lines were operating at full force. Billions of copper-plated zinc planchets were being fed into massive presses. Each planchet would be struck with 2 dies, one for the obverse and one for the reverse. But this year carried an additional twist. The dies used for the reverse were in a state of transition between the older engraving style and the newer style scheduled for the following year. The engravers were gradually updating hubs, refining design details, and modifying relief structures. And somewhere in that transition, dies from different design generations got mixed. That mix-up produced one of the most famous anomalies in Lincoln cent history. The 1988 penny struck using a reverse die intended for the 1989 penny. The differences between the two designs are microscopic, so subtle that even trained eyes can miss them without magnification. And yet, those tiny differences make all the difference. When a coin belongs to one year but carries design elements from another, it becomes a masterpiece of minting error. It becomes a transitional treasure. Collectors spend hours studying the architecture of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. They look at the spacing of the steps, the shape of the upper corners, the positioning of the FG initials, the angle of the edges, the thickness of the pillars. These are not measures made casually. These are microscopic evaluations requiring magnifiers, lighting adjustments, and sometimes high-resolution imaging. And when they find the slightest deviation that ties a 1988 penny to a 1989 hub, everything changes. The thrill people feel when they discover such a coin is indescribable. It's not just excitement. It's a rush of discovering something hidden in plain sight, something overlooked for decades, something billions of people came across but never noticed. The idea that a transitional hub error is sitting right there on a penny most people treat as worthless. That's the kind of moment collectors live for, and it doesn't stop with hub errors. The 1988 penny is also known for a variety of other anomalies that can dramatically increase its value. For example, plating bubbles, tiny blisters caused by the copper plating stretching over the zinc core, can create unique and sometimes beautiful surface effects. On some coins, these bubbles form patterns or shapes that collectors consider desirable. On others, the plating might split, revealing the raw zinc beneath. These are natural side effects of the copper over zinc structure, and while common plating flaws don't carry high value, rare forms of split plating combined with strong details or unusual strike features can make a specific coin stand out. Then we have die deterioration. As dies strike more and more coins, they wear down. Lines blur. Details soften. Flow lines spread across the fields. These forms of die wear can sometimes create strange, almost surreal textures on the surface of the coin. Most are normal. But every now and then, a specific die deterioration pattern becomes collectible because it forms an unexpected shape or effect that numismatists consider unique. And yet, none of these interesting features compare to the transitional reverse anomaly. That single anomaly, where the 1988 obverse pairs with a reverse hub from 1989, is the phenomenon that skyrockets values into the range that makes headlines, breaks expectations, and captures the imagination of collectors everywhere. And the reason it's so valuable is simple: it was never supposed to happen. It exists only because of a perfect storm of timing, oversight, and mechanical process. But the story doesn't stop there. Rarity alone does not create extreme value. Condition matters even more. If a rare 1988 penny is discovered in perfect, untouched, brilliant condition, no scratches, no stains, no corrosion, no wear, that coin becomes exponentially more valuable. Because billions of pennies enter circulation, and circulation destroys condition. Pockets, wallets, dirt, moisture, friction, they all attack the surface relentlessly. That is why a pristine 1988 transitional variety found in high grade can leap from thousands to millions to the kind of astronomical values like the whisper level $143 million marks in private collector speculation. It's the combination of rarity and condition that transforms a coin into a masterpiece of value. But there's something even more incredible about the 1988 penny and why people obsess over it: the possibility that more undiscovered rarities are still out there. Because the transitional die error was only recognized long after the coins went into circulation, no one knows how many were struck, how many survived, or how many are still hiding in places people haven't checked. Maybe a sealed bankroll holds a pristine version. Maybe a forgotten jar in someone's attic contains one. Maybe a drawer, a purse, a coat pocket from decades ago hides the next record-breaking treasure. That's what makes this coin so immersive. It's not just about history, it's about the thrill of what could still be discovered. It's the sense that the story isn't finished. The 1988 penny remains a living mystery, growing more valuable with time, with awareness, and with every new discovery that emerges. And that's why collectors, hobbyists, and even ordinary individuals who never cared about coins before are now paying attention. Because the 1988 penny challenges everything we thought we knew about the value of common change. It proves that the smallest object, the coin worth only 1 cent, can secretly be worth more than luxury properties, iconic cars, or even entire businesses. This coin is not done revealing its secrets, and the more we dig, the more extraordinary the journey becomes. And as we push deeper into the story of the 1988 1-cent coin, something remarkable becomes clear. The further you go into its layers, the more you realize that this tiny piece of metal is not just an object minted for exchange, but a reflection of an era marked by transition, economic optimism, and the silent evolution of American currency. When collectors handle a 1988 penny today, they aren't simply assessing a coin, they are touching a fragment of history that carries the fingerprints of changing times, shifting minting technologies, and the subtle nuances that make certain coins surge in value beyond imagination. The 1980s were a decade where American manufacturing modernized, and the U.S. Mint was no exception. That shift can be felt in every fiber of the 1988 cent's construction, especially in the delicate difference between Lincoln's bust, the spacing of the lettering, and the microscopic features that can elevate its market value by thousands or even millions under the right circumstances. You can picture the minting floor during that year, machines aligned in vast rows, rhythmic clanks echoing through the halls, strips of copper-plated zinc feeding through punching mechanisms, blanks being created at lightning speed, and each one destined to become a coin that may one day change someone's life. Imagine one blank slipping slightly, but not enough to be rejected by the automated checking systems of that time, creating a misalignment so subtle that it would go unnoticed for decades until a dedicated collector finds it with a magnifying lens powerful enough to see the tiny deviations that define rarity. That's the magic contained within the 1988 penny, its potential for anomalies hidden in the smallest details. Some collectors swear that you can feel a story vibration in certain old coins, as if every mile traveled in pockets, cash registers, dusty drawers, and forgotten coin jars becomes part of its personality, giving every rare 1988 cent a unique aura that sets it apart. The 1988 penny's reverse design, featuring the classic Lincoln Memorial, invites a moment of reflection too. When you zoom into the memorial columns, you begin noticing the precision required during the engraving process. Each column represents a harmony between artistry and engineering, a balance struck by master engravers whose craft was honed over decades. While most people simply see the memorial as a generic building, coin collectors know that the reverse side of the 1988 cent hides micro-details that govern its desirability. Some specimens show extra thickness around the memorial base, others have faint dye deterioration lines, and a select few display mis-shaped serifs that collectors today hunt for like treasure. It's these nearly invisible differences that transform the ordinary 1-cent piece into a token worth more than gold and platinum combined when placed in the right auction with the right lighting and the right audience. Try holding a 1988 penny under a bright LED light and tilt it gently. You'll notice the soft glimmer dancing across its copper surface, the shadows shifting across Lincoln's cheekbones, and the gleam outlining his jawline. If you look even closer, you'll see the transition ridge where copper plating meets the zinc cord deep beneath it. This dual metal structure is part of what makes the 1988 cent fascinating, because unlike the older, pre-1982 pennies that were made fully of copper, the newer copper-plated zinc versions carry unique signatures that age, corrode, tone, and react differently to their environment. Some extremely rare specimens from 1988 have developed rainbow toning that appears naturally over decades, producing exotic blues, purples, and amber reflections that collectors value like artwork. When a 1988 penny displays perfect rainbow toning and flawless surfaces, its desirability skyrockets to a level that sometimes defies standard valuation charts. A coin that originally cost only 1 cent can suddenly appear on auction listings with opening bids in the thousands, and in the rarest cases, the hundreds of thousands. But the part that truly elevates the mystique of the 1988 cent is the whispers in the coin community about extremely rare hidden varieties, those elusive minting errors or transitional designs that were never meant to circulate. Some claim that a small number of 1988 cents were struck with hubs that belonged to 1989 prototypes. These whispers, though unconfirmed officially, have circulated for years in collector forums and have sparked intense hunts for specific blends of markers on certain 1988 coins. When a rumor spreads through the numismatic world, it's like throwing a spark into a dry forest. Suddenly everyone wants to check their pocket change, every collector pulls out their brightest lamps, and every magnifying glass in the house becomes a tool for treasure hunting. The excitement becomes contagious, and each 1988 penny becomes a potential lottery ticket. This emotional connection, this thrill, is what keeps collectors endlessly fascinated with coins that most people overlook. The weight of the 1988 penny, 2.5 grams, might seem laughably simple at first, but in the world of coin grading and authenticity, that number has monumental significance. If a 1988 cent weighs even a fraction heavier or lighter, it could indicate a planchet error, a striking issue, or even a rare leftover blank from another year's production. Such anomalies can turn a coin into the star of an entire auction season, attracting collectors who specialize exclusively in weight-based variances. The obsession becomes so intense that some collectors invest in laboratory-grade digital scales just to examine thousands of pennies in hopes of finding one that deviates enough to be considered extraordinary. And when that extraordinary one appears, everything changes, because rarity transforms metal into money at magnitudes unimaginable. The edges, too, play a role. The smooth edge of the 1988 cent is supposed to be uniform, but every once in a while, collectors discover a weak edge strike, a partial edge indentation, or an overpolished edge feature that sets a particular coin apart. These little quirks can enhance value in ways that seem unbelievable to casual observers. It's almost ironic that a coin so tiny, so everyday, so commonplace in its time, can now command enormous prices just because the universe aligned perfectly during the split second it was struck. As we go deeper into the emotional side of the 1988 penny, there's something profoundly nostalgic about imagining the hands this coin might have passed through. It could have been spent in grocery stores, slipped into soda machines, exchanged between children buying candies, lodged into the corner of a car's ashtray, lost between couch cushions, or saved unknowingly in a coffee jar for decades. The journey of a single penny is often more adventurous than the journey of a human being. Some coins travel across states, across generations, through countless owners who had no idea they were holding a future treasure. And yet, through all that movement, scratches, circulation wear, environmental exposure, and natural aging, certain 1988 pennies miraculously survive in near-perfect condition, exhibiting almost untouched surfaces that defy logic. It's these survivors, the immaculate few, that dominate the market today and attract the highest bids. When collectors talk about high-grade 1988 cents, they often mention eye appeal, a subjective but incredibly powerful factor in determining a coin's value. Eye appeal refers to the overall look of the coin, the shine, the toning, the strike clarity, the smoothness of fields, and the crispness of details. A 1988 penny with stunning eye appeal can mesmerize a collector instantly, sometimes even overshadowing coins of higher mint states, but lesser beauty. Auction houses understand this psychology well, and they often spotlight visually appealing pennies under premium lighting to enhance the bidding frenzy. That's part of the reason why certain 1988 pennies have achieved astronomical fictionalized market values like the $143 million number circulating in collector folklore. When hype meets rarity and meets beauty, the result is explosive. The story becomes even more immersive when you consider the symbolic elements embedded in the coin's design. Lincoln's portrait on the obverse reflects resilience, leadership, and transformation, traits that resonate deeply with collectors who admire historical significance. Meanwhile, the reverse's Lincoln Memorial adds a layer of architectural elegance, linking the coin not just to the man but also to the monument built to honor him. The dual symbolism creates emotional depth, and emotional depth often translates into value, especially in the storytelling-driven world of collectible coins. A 1988 penny is not merely copper-plated zinc, it's a miniature monument, a tribute, a piece of cultural heritage that has traveled through time to land in the hands of modern-day enthusiasts. And as we move even deeper into the unfolding layers of the 1988 1-cent coin, the narrative begins to stretch far beyond simple metal composition, design features, or reported market rumors. It becomes an exploration of time itself, because every 1988 penny carries within it a silent record of the year it was born. When you hold it, you aren't just holding a coin, you're holding the energy of 1988, a year of transitions, rising technologies, and a nation stepping into a new era. The air of that time seems to cling to each tiny ridge and curve of the coin's surface. Collectors often talk about how certain coins make them feel something, and the 1988 cent has that strange power. It creates a subtle pull, almost like its weight isn't measured merely in grams but in memories, journeys, and chances that played out across decades. That emotional density is part of what fuels the obsession around rare, high-value 1988 pennies. When you imagine the minting process in 1988, you also imagine the enormous pressure under which dies were operated. The speed of modern minting meant that thousands of coins were produced per minute, and with such speed comes the possibility of fleeting imperfections. A tiny vibration, an unexpected shift in a die's alignment, a slight change in metal flow, any one of these micro-events could create an unexpected rarity that no one at the time would have noticed. It is these split-second imperfections that today create the foundation for high-value discoveries in coin collecting. It's incredible to think that $1 million level coin might have been born not out of intention, but out of a hardly noticeable millisecond irregularity that went entirely unappreciated for 30 or 40 years. This is why collectors spend infinite hours with magnifying glasses, microscopes, and specialized lighting setups. They study the 1988 penny as though it is an artifact unearthed from ancient ruins. Under intense magnification, the world of the coin transforms. Lincoln's coat folds look like miniature mountain ranges. The fields of the coin resemble smooth plains interrupted by faint dye flow lines that behave like rivers on a map. Even the smallest contact marks tell a story, each one an imprint left by its interaction with the world over years of circulation. When you look at a 1988 penny this way, it becomes a universe of details, each one holding potential meaning for its value. One of the most fascinating aspects for collectors is the possibility of discovering a transitional variety, coins struck using elements meant for a different year. Transitional errors are among the most sought-after treasures in numismatics. When whispers spread among collectors that some 1988 cents may have been struck with 1989 design elements, or using experimental hubs, the entire collecting world becomes electrified. Even though no official confirmations exist, the possibility alone is enough to make people dig into old coin jars, revisit storage boxes, and re-examine every cent under magnification. Hope becomes a motivator, curiosity becomes a driving force, and the idea that a simple penny sitting unnoticed in a drawer could turn out to be worth unimaginable sums becomes an irresistible temptation. The magic is in the hunt. The thrill is in the unknown. And the rewards, although occasional, are enormous enough to keep the chase alive. Collectors often describe the search as a meditative process. Sitting at a table with a bright lamp and a pile of pennies, slowly turning each coin, checking the edges, tilting it at precise angles to catch the reflection of the light across the portrait, these rituals become part of a collector's life. People lose hours in this zone, unaware of time passing. And the 1988 penny is one of those dates that pushes collectors into that trance-like state, because its known errors, rumored varieties, and rare high-grade survivors make it one of the quiet giants of late 20th century coinage. One of the most striking features of high-grade 1988 cents is the sharpness of Lincoln's bust. When perfectly preserved, every detail stands out. The texture of his hair, the clean edges of his beard line, the exact curvature of his coat. Under high magnification, perfectly sharp details tell you the coin was struck with a fresh die, meaning its early life likely protected it from circulation. A coin in this condition often carries immense value in auctions because it becomes a piece of minting perfection preserved accidentally through time. The fact that such a coin has survived 3.5 decades without major scratches or wear is almost miraculous. Survival is the greatest rarity of all. Then there's the matter of eye appeal. Eye appeal is not a technical term, it's an emotional one. A 1988 penny with bright luster, smooth fields, and strong color can hypnotize even the most experienced collectors. The shine alone can set the tone for bidding. Some collectors say a coin with incredible luster glows, even in dim light. Others describe how the light dances across its surface like ripples on water. A radiant 1988 penny with perfect surfaces can produce an emotional reaction stronger than logic. And when emotion enters a bidding room, prices can rise beyond expectations. That's the power of beauty in numismatics. It turns logic into passion, and passion into skyrocketing value. The copper-plated zinc composition of the 1988 penny also adds an interesting twist. Unlike older copper pennies, which tone gradually over time, zinc-based cents can develop unique patterns when exposed to certain conditions. A 1988 penny kept in a cool, dry, airtight place might retain its bright, brilliant red luster. Meanwhile, another stored in a place with fluctuating temperatures might acquire soft, golden, violet, or even blue toning. These naturally toned patterns can sometimes elevate a coin's desirability dramatically. Collectors love uniqueness, and natural color variations make a coin stand out visually among thousands of identical pieces. It's also important to consider how the environment shapes coins differently. A 1988 penny stored in a metal box for decades may develop unusual toning. A penny kept in a wallet may show a completely different aging pattern. A penny left untouched in a drawer might remain pristine for decades, while another carried around in pockets continuously would collect dings and scratches. These diverging environmental paths create infinite variations, and among those variations lie the rarest and most beautiful survivors that collectors seek. Every tiny detail, surface texture, tone, strike precision, and alignment comes together like a puzzle that determines how valuable a particular 1988 penny might be. This complexity adds to the allure. There is no single rule, no single checklist, no single guaranteed sign of extreme value. Instead, each coin is a blend of factors, and that blend creates endless possibilities for surprises. This uncertainty, the chance that any given 1988 penny might be hiding something extraordinary, is what fuels the legends surrounding the coin's potential value. While the $143 million market value number belongs more to the realm of collector mythology than documented financial reality, it represents something more important: the belief that rarity, beauty, and the perfect combination of circumstances can elevate even the smallest object into a priceless treasure. That belief keeps the coin world alive. It keeps collectors searching. It keeps auctions exciting. And it keeps the 1988 penny at the center of some of the most fascinating discussions among modern numismatists. And as we journey even further into the world of the 1988 1-cent coin, the narrative only grows richer, because the deeper you go, the more you begin to realize that every single element, every curve of the design, every tiny ridge, every imperfection, every moment of its life, contributes to a hidden story waiting to be uncovered. The beauty of the 1988 penny is that it doesn't shout for attention. It whispers. It hides its potential behind an ordinary exterior. It blends into the millions of coins that pass through vending machines, cash registers, and pockets every day. But quietly, silently, it waits for the right person with the right knowledge to uncover its true value. This contrast between simplicity and potential is what makes it one of the most captivating coins collectors love to study, analyze, and obsess over. When you look at a 1988 penny under bright, focused lighting, the copper plating reflects light in soft, curved waves. As the light moves across Lincoln's portrait, you see microscopic details that are invisible to the naked eye. On high-grade examples, the fields appear like calm mirrors, perfectly smooth and undisturbed. These are the coins that make collectors pause. They make people lean closer, adjust the angle, tilt the coin slowly, watching how the shine follows the direction of movement like liquid copper. This level of preservation is rare for any coin that has existed for more than 3 decades. The survival of flawless surfaces is not just luck, it's fate. It means the coin was protected from rough circulation, from sharp edges and pockets, from rubbing against other coins, from environmental elements that cause corrosion and dullness. But even more fascinating are the rumors and documented instances of rare die varieties that appear only under microscopic inspection. Some 1988 pennies show doubling in the lettering or on the memorial structure. Others exhibit die fatigue lines that resemble faint strokes of a brush. These lines form patterns different from coin to coin, making each one almost like a fingerprint. For collectors, such minute markers become signatures of rarity. They turn an ordinary-looking penny into a candidate for premium valuation. And the thrill of finding one of these rare varieties is enough to make collectors spend long nights sorting through thousands of coins, driven by the hope that their next discovery will be the big one. The reverse of the 1988 penny, the Lincoln Memorial, seems simple at first glance. But under magnification, it reveals its own labyrinth of details. The spacing between the columns, the crispness of the steps, the alignment of the base, the shape of the roof, the sharpness of the letters in United States of America, each of these tells a story about the condition of the die used to strike the coin. Fresh dies create razor-sharp lines. Worn dies create softer, rounder features. And extremely rare transitional die mixes, if they exist for this year as enthusiasts claim, create unexpected mismatches. This is the treasure map collectors follow. They analyze every letter, every shadow, every micro ridge as if they're archaeologists uncovering lost history. Collectors often describe the hunt for rare pennies as emotional. There is anticipation, hope, excitement, frustration, and occasionally heartbreak when a promising coin doesn't meet expectations. But there are moments of pure exhilaration too, moments when a collector finds something exceptional. Imagine someone sitting at a kitchen table late at night, sifting through a pile of pennies with nothing more than a lamp and a magnifying lens. Their heart skips a beat when they spot unusual doubling. They lean closer, breathe carefully, afraid to blink. They turn the coin slowly, watching light reveal the shapes. In that moment, time stops. For that collector, the world shrinks down to the size of a penny. That's the kind of emotional connection a rare 1988 cent can spark, and that emotional spark is part of what drives rumors of astronomical values, legendary finds, and unbelievable auction stories. But beyond the technicalities and the romance of discovery, there's also the historical significance. Think about 1988. America was changing rapidly. Technology was evolving. Economic optimism was rising. New industries were forming. The U.S. Mint was adjusting to modernized production techniques that aimed for efficiency but sometimes created unexpected inconsistencies. These inconsistencies, insignificant at the time, today form the backbone of some of the most valuable and sought-after coins of the late 20th century. The 1988 penny stands at the center of this era, a token from a pivotal time, frozen in a small disc of metal that would go on to become an object of fascination decades later. Another layer of intrigue comes from environmental toning. While many 1988 pennies retain their original copper red color, a small number have developed vibrant, naturally occurring rainbow tones that collectors admire deeply. These colors emerge only under special conditions, specific humidity levels, storage materials, temperature changes, and time. No one can predict which coins will tone beautifully and which won't, because natural toning is a kind of organic art created by the environment. A 1988 penny with luminous purple, gold, blue, and orange hues can look like it was painted by nature. These extraordinary examples command significant attention, regardless of grade. Some collectors have paid huge premiums solely for spectacular color patterns that make a single penny stand out like a gem. The sound of a 1988 penny is often overlooked but holds its own charm. When dropped on a hard surface, copper-plated zinc coins produce a softer, higher-pitched ring compared to solid copper coins. Experienced collectors can sometimes identify a coin's composition through sound alone. This acoustic identity is unique and adds another sensory dimension to the world of coin collecting. It reminds us that coins are not just visual objects, they appeal to touch, weight, sound, texture, and even emotion. But perhaps the most captivating part of the 1988 penny saga is how it develops a personality over time. Coins develop character. They gather marks, tone, polish, scars, and shine based on the life they've lived. A 1988 penny kept safe in a protective envelope might remain bright and pristine, while another passed through countless hands may show deep wear and dull surfaces. Yet both contain their own story. Both are pieces of the same history but shaped differently by their journey. This individuality is what makes each 1988 penny worth examining, because one of them, maybe one in 1,000, maybe one in 1,000,000, could be the rare variety that transforms its owner's life. And now, as we reach this moment in the journey of the 1988 1-cent coin, something important happens. Because this is where the story stops being just a deep exploration and becomes a personal connection between you and the viewer. This is the part where every person watching starts to ask themselves one simple but powerful question. What if I have one of these rare 1988 pennies sitting unnoticed somewhere in my home? What if the next life-changing discovery is already in my possession, waiting quietly inside an old jar, resting at the bottom of a drawer, or lying forgotten in a box of mixed coins from years ago? That thought alone sparks curiosity, excitement, and a sudden urge to search through every penny available. Imagine telling your viewers gently but with rising anticipation that maybe, just maybe, the coin they've ignored for years could be the one coin that stands out, the one with a doubling anomaly, a rare transitional variety, or a flawless strike that might elevate its value into unbelievable territory. This is the moment where you invite them into the hunt, not as observers but as active treasure seekers. You let them feel the thrill that coin collectors feel, the thrill of possibility. The excitement of discovering something extraordinary in something so ordinary. You ask them if they've ever checked their old change jar, their savings box, that pile of coins in the car cup holder, or even their pocket change at the end of the day. Because the truth is, rare coins don't announce themselves. They hide in plain sight. And someone out there watching your video might be sitting on a coin they never realized could be valuable. So you speak directly to your viewers, drawing them closer, telling them to pick up their coins and check the date, 1988. Tell them to look carefully at the lettering, the edges, Lincoln's portrait, the memorial reverse, the shine, the weight, the tone. Encourage them to take out a flashlight or hold the coin under sunlight, tipping it from side to side, watching how the light reflects. Ask them if they see anything unusual, anything a little different, anything that stands out. Because that tiny difference, that seemingly meaningless detail, could change everything. You explain to them how many incredible discoveries came from people who weren't experts, people who weren't collectors, weren't dealers, weren't specialists, just ordinary people who happened to look closely at the right moment. You remind them that sometimes a person finds a fortune by simply taking the time to examine something everyone else overlooked. This is where you make the viewer feel included in the adventure, part of the community, part of the ongoing search. And then you spark their imagination even more by asking what they would do if they found an ultra-valuable 1988 penny. Would they sell it instantly? Would they keep it as a piece of history? Would they grade it? Would they show it proudly to friends or family? These questions pull the viewer into the storyline emotionally, making them feel as if they're a character inside the hunt. And then you connect directly with them, asking them to share their thoughts. Have they ever found a rare coin before? Have they ever collected pennies? Do they have a 1988 penny already? Have they seen anything unusual on the coins they've checked? You encourage them to comment their answers, share their discoveries, ask questions, and tell their stories, because every viewer becomes part of the mystery. Every person watching becomes part of the collective hunt for hidden treasures. You allow them to feel like their comment might help someone else, or that someone else's comment might help them. This creates excitement, unity, and energy in your community. You tell them to search their pockets right now, to pause the video and check if they have any coins lying around. You tell them that the feeling of finding something rare is unbelievable, like lightning striking in the quiet of an ordinary day. And even if they don't find something today, they will always remember that they checked. They will remember that they're part of the story. They will keep looking. And that's what makes the journey beautiful. You speak to them like a friend, inviting them to stay connected, to keep watching, to keep learning, to keep exploring the incredible world of valuable coins, because every episode, every video, every story opens their eyes to the hidden treasures the world still offers. You remind them that these discoveries don't happen in museums, they happen in homes. They happen in pockets. They happen in everyday life. And anyone, at any moment, might be the next person to uncover something extraordinary. This is the moment you bring the viewer into the heart of the adventure. This is where they feel the excitement rising, the curiosity growing, the possibility becoming real. This is where they become part of the journey. This is your engagement moment, powerful, emotional, and personal. In this final moment, as we wrap up everything we've uncovered, imagine once more the quiet power hidden inside that small 1988 1-cent piece. A coin so ordinary that millions of people have brushed it aside, tossed it into jars, dropped it in drawers, spent it without thinking, never knowing that one single rare variation among them carries a value that reaches into the world of legends, a value that climbs into unimaginable figures. A value that transforms this humble copper-coated cent into a collectible masterpiece worth more than towering estates and supercars and private jets combined. And as you've journeyed with me through its minting history, its design, its weight, its symbolism, the unexpected twists of its rarity, and the extraordinary market eruption that pushed its estimated worth into numbers like $143 million, you've seen for yourself how even the smallest item can hold a universe of stories inside it. And now, as we close this adventure, I want to leave you with the same spark that started it all, the curiosity that turns a simple glance at an everyday coin into an investigation that might just change your life. Somewhere in your home there might be a penny that looks just like the millions of others, yet carries details so unique that it becomes a treasure beyond imagination. Somewhere in your old savings box, in the coins lying forgotten in your car, in the drawers you haven't opened in years, there could be a piece waiting to reveal its true identity. All it takes is the willingness to look a little closer, to observe the tiniest markings, to understand the great value that history places on even the smallest fragment of metal. This is why collectors never stop searching, never stop learning, never stop exploring, because they know that the next extraordinary discovery could be right in their hands. So before you go, keep that powerful thought alive. Let your curiosity move you to explore every old coin you come across, to appreciate its story, to respect the craftsmanship, and to imagine the incredible possibilities hidden within each detail. And if you enjoyed diving deep into this world with me today, if this journey opened your eyes to the hidden value that might be sitting right in front of you, then make sure you continue traveling with me on this channel. Your support is what takes us even deeper into rare coins, surprising discoveries, and the shocking truths that the world of numismatics holds. Stay connected, stay curious, and keep searching, because you never know when your next coin might be the one that changes everything.